Hi, welcome and thank you for listening to the Veerle Adventure Podcast. My name is Veerle and I'm taking you with me on a journey. In this podcast, I will give you a glimpse into my location-independent free life. I will tell you about the challenges of online entrepreneurship as a nomad, about finding the right mindset to grow, and how you can experience real freedom in your own non-nomadic life. My name is Veerle and welcome to Veerle Adventure. Hi, welcome. This is the first English episode of the Veerle Adventure Podcast in English, and I'm a bit nervous about it. I already had a podcast for the last 10 months in Dutch, but it didn't make sense anymore because I have so much friends and clients that don't speak Dutch. So it didn't make sense to keep recording in Dutch when I do speak English. It's not perfect, but I do speak it. So that's why I'm starting the English podcast. Let me introduce myself. I am Veerle. I'm a 35-year-old Dutch nomad and a business coach. My name is Veerle, and that's unpronounceable in English, so that's why I go by Fearless. Just like I have no fear, and that's why my podcast is named Veerle Adventure. It's my adventure, Veerle Adventure. The podcast will be about my nomadic lifestyle, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. I still call myself a nomad, even though I have been in the Netherlands for over a year now because of the pandemic. I stay with my parents right now, but I do have some house sits, so I'm not always at my parents, but quite a lot. And I don't mind. I still am a nomad in my heart. I don't have my own place, and that's why I can still talk about it. And I will get out there again soon. As soon as I'm vaccinated, I will travel again, and I will bringing you along on my journey. So that's that. But I wanted to record an episode in English about how I became a nomad. I already have this episode in Dutch. It's the second one. So if you would like to hear everything in Dutch, you can listen to it if you understand Dutch. But I thought I should just tell my story in English as well. So that's why I'm kind of re-recording this episode. The funny thing is, I'm a nomad who didn't like to travel. Back in 2012, we went to the United States. When I say we, I mean my parents and my siblings. And we traveled from Denver to San Francisco. And we had two cars. We drove the whole thing, and it the schedule was just crazy. I was so tired because we had to drive every 2 or 3 days, and I was just tired the whole time. So after that experience, it was a month, and after that month, I just thought that I didn't like to travel. Every time I went away for a weekend or a week, I was just completely broken. I couldn't do anything. I was too tired to even function properly. I always had to schedule in another week of vacation after I went on a holiday. So it didn't make sense, and I thought I didn't like to travel. But in 2015, I started to take some trips. I took my first solo trip in 2015 to Valencia in Spain, and I locked myself into my hotel room. I didn't go out at night. I ordered room service every night, and I didn't do anything fun, but it felt like freedom. I binge watched, I guess, Gilmore Girls or something like that, and I just had the time of my life. Went to the beach, went for a run, and shopped. I don't know, silly things, but I did like it, even though it was completely different from the life that I'm leading now as a nomad. I didn't go to a hostel, I didn't go to a bar, I didn't even go out for dinner. I just ordered everything in and went grocery shopping and ate salads in my hotel room. It was pretty lonely, but it was the start of something. And 2015 was the year that I started to travel a little bit more. I visited some friends who lived abroad. I had a friend in Oslo in Norway and one in Madrid in Spain. So I visited them both, and that was really fun. And at the end of the year, in September, I went to Iceland with my best friend, and that was really a lovely trip. But still, during that trip, I got really sick. Well, I was sick before that because I had a severe sinus infection. But yeah, I got sick during as well. So one day we just had to stay in our hotel and couldn't do anything. But still, that was fun, and I really loved that holiday. It's one of my favorite ones. And because I loved Iceland so much, I went back in 2016. I bought a ticket a week before I left. I bought a ticket to the Airways Festival, and I just booked a cheap flight and a hostel, and I went. Two of my friends were already there for a couple of days, and after that, I stayed a little bit longer to take some day trips to my favorite places to be there again, and I really loved it. But still, I didn't think of myself as a traveler, and I think that only started in 2017. In March 2017, I read this newsletter from Marlou, and in that newsletter, Angelica, sorry, it doesn't sound right if I say it in English. She shared the photos of her trip to Bulgaria, especially the photos of the Seven Rila Lakes. And when I saw that again, because I already saw those photos, but something clicked within me and I just knew that I had to go there. So I booked myself a ticket for May 2017, and I completely shoved all the activities in and everything was booked, and it was really too stressed, but I loved every second of it. I couldn't go to the Seven Rila Lakes because they weren't going. There were no tours going. I don't know why, but because that was the main reason why I went there, I had to go back. And I was sitting in Veliko Tarnovo in Bulgaria, and I promised myself that I would go back in October. And the reason why I say October is because at that time I was organizing festivals, and October was always my downtime. It was the only month that I had off to really not work at all and just take a holiday. So that's why I decided to go back in October 2017. So I flew back to Bulgaria, and it was just wonderful to not have a plan. Nothing was scheduled in. I just knew that I wanted to do the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to go back to Velikartanovo because I wanted to go to the Budlutsa monument. It is a Russian monument, and you're not allowed to go in, but we did. It was awesome. I went there, and when we drove there, we were caught in a snowstorm. It was crazy. And I was just walking there on my all stars. I wasn't prepared for that at all, but it was so much fun. We had to climb down on some, I don't know, a cabinet, and it was such a magical moment to walk there within that snow. But the stupid thing is that when we were there, I tripped and I fell down on my tailbone, and I really had a hard time walking after that. I felt my tailbone for a week after, and when we got back to the hostel, I managed to get back to the car and just go to the hostel. But when I was in the hostel, I called my dad, who is a doctor, and I told him that I fell down on my tailbone and what I should do. Because I'm in Bulgaria, I don't speak the language. Do I have to go to a doctor? Do I have to go home? What should I do? And he just told me take some rest and we'll figure it out. And otherwise, we'll we'll make sure that you come back. So he reassured me a little bit, and I just lay down in the hostel and didn't do that much. But the next morning, my friends were going away, and they could drop me off in Plovdiv because one of them was going there and the other one was dropping the other one off. So I decided to join them and to go to Plovdiv, and that was such a fun trip. It just everything from that whole trip, it all made sense. I followed the people that I met, and everything flowed together, and it was such a fun trip. I have the best memories of that trip, I guess. When I returned home, I had to give a training, so I had to go home, and I had my no, I don't think I had a flight booked. I took a bus from Budapest to Utrecht, and it took like 20 hours or something. But when I got home, I didn't like the feeling of being home. So within a week, I booked another ticket. Went to Portugal. I flew to Faro, and 10 days later, I flew back from Porto to the Netherlands. And it was so nice to be in the sun in November, and that's when I decided that I wanted to take longer trips to sunnier places. And the funny thing is that in 2017, I already realized that I wanted to travel more. I really disliked the fact that I had to go back to do a training or to organize festival. Something within me already started to, I don't know, something just, it didn't feel right anymore. But yeah, I still had to work because we have to earn money. So 2018, in October, I booked another flight and I went to Ljubljana. And when I'm new in a city, I usually book 3 nights in a hostel just to settle in, because otherwise I feel a bit rushed that I have to find another place to go or whatever. So when I was in Ljubljana, I was in this hostel and there were a lot of Erasmus students living there. So it wasn't a hostel vibe. And I didn't really like it. So I was just sitting there on my laptop writing blog posts because I did blog a lot back then. And there came in this girl asking if someone wanted to join her with this tour. And she pointed at a poster, canyoning, let's go canyoning. And I thought, why not? I wanted to do it anyway, so sounds good. It was in Bled, and I was planning to go to Bled, but I still had a night in the hostel in Ljubljana, so I just decided that we should go, and then I would go back to Ljubljana that same night. So we went canyoning, and I thought we were going canoeing, so that was a bit weird when we had to change into the wetsuits and walk up the mountain, and there was no canoe. So we were a bit joking about that. And I loved the canyoning, the jumping, the sliding. It was really fun. I really loved it. And I I went with her to her hostel, and that vibe was so good. That was the vibe that I wanted as a traveler. So that night I went back to the hostel in Ljubljana, and the next morning with the first bus I came back to Bled and I checked in the hostel, and I stayed there for 2 weeks. I really loved that place. And the funny thing is, when you stay in a hostel for 2 weeks, you really get to know the staff, but you also get to know everyone that's staying there a little bit longer. And I tried to leave twice, but I couldn't. The first time the bus was full. The second time I got in a fight with a bus driver, so I kept ending up in Bled. And one day, one of my friends asked what I wanted to do for my birthday, and I didn't know. And he said, "You've been talking about that caning forever. We should do it again. I think you want to do it again, and I want to do it because you talk so much about it." So I end up persuading a couple of people, and we filled two groups, and I organized a discount, and we went caning, and we were with 16 people in the end. But it was really nice that, and I got talking to the guides, and it was the same guide as when I went 2 weeks earlier, and we got talking that I really like to travel, and I really like the caning, and I don't know, we just got talking, and all of a sudden we agreed on that I would come back for the summer to work for them, and it just happened. It was so nice, and I'm still so glad that my friends said that we should go caning for my birthday. So we did, and that landed me a job for the summer. So the next summer, I came back to Bled. Oh, and no, I have to tell something else first because otherwise the story is messed up. When I was in Bled in 2018, I realized that I wanted to travel even more and really should cancel my house. When people ask me why I still owned a place, well, rented the place, I always told people that it was because of my cat. I really had this nice little cat. I rescued her. She used to be a street cat. She was afraid of everything that moved except me. And she was just the cutest. She always curled up next to me in bed, underneath the blanket. And yeah, it was a crazy one, but she's lovely. But she was the only reason why I still owned a cat. And I've subletted my house for a couple of times, and sometimes with cat and sometimes without my cat. But I realized that that was the only reason why I still had a place. So when I was in Bled, it all clicked. I have to do this. I'm coming back here anyway, and that means that I won't be there for the summer in the Netherlands. So why would I still have a house there? So I decided to cancel it. And in 2019, I really became a nomad. I had no house. I just became a house sitter when I was in the Netherlands and left for other countries when I wanted to. So that summer, the summer of 2019, I went to Bled and I worked there for 2 months. And I went canyoning and paragliding and walked amazing hikes, and I climbed Triglav. It was just the best experience of my life, and I'm still so thankful for that day. That day that we went canyoning and they asked me if I wanted to work for them, and everything just clicked, and I've met so much lovely people in Bled, and I can't wait to go back. Well, after that period in Bled, I had to go back to the Netherlands to organize another festival. So 2 weeks, no, 2 months in the Netherlands, and I was completely stressed out again. And I felt so at ease in Slovenia that it didn't make sense to stay in the Netherlands. So in 2019, in October, I left back to Slovenia again. And there I had to relax. For I think I was there for almost 2 weeks, and I couldn't do anything. I was just so tired, and I just needed to relax and unwind. But after that, I decided I need to follow the sun, and I just checked where the sun was shining and where cheap tickets or buses were going. So from Bled, I went to Croatia, and from there I took another long bus to the Netherlands because I wanted to see a doctor. I had a severe, how do you call it, bronchitis. So I was really glad that I got to go to the doctor in the Netherlands. And then I flew to Malaga. And in Malaga, I was there for 2 weeks and I was sick the whole time. I did one day trip and that was it. But when I was in Malaga, I found a cheap ticket to Gran Canaria. And I always felt that the Canary Islands were very expensive, but it turned out it was pretty affordable. So I went to Gran Canaria, and my sister even came over for a couple of days to have a relaxation. And I was in that hostel again for 2 weeks, and I got to know people, and well, people had stuff planned out, and I was just there chilling. So I stayed in touch with a lot of people, and they all told me that I should go to Finca La Isa. And it was a hostel in the middle of the island in the mountains, and it was just so pretty. But I thought it was a bit expensive, and I didn't want to pay, I think, 27 a night it was then. I didn't want to pay that for a couple of nights, so I thought, all right, I should just do it. In the end, Corinne sent me photos, and I just thought, all right, I really should go there. And I booked, and I stayed there for 3 nights. And when I checked in, the manager turned out to be Dutch, and we just we got along really good. It was really nice, and he offered me to bring me to the airport on Monday when I was flying to Fuerteventura. And when we were in the car, he we got talking, and I kind of said that I wanted to come back, that I really loved the vibe in the hostel, and I asked if I could come back within a month, and I could. So a month later, I was back, and I lived in that hostel for another 2 months, and I had the time of my life. And after that, I had to come back to the Netherlands for another round of festivals, and then the pandemic hit. So it's not that I have a lot of travel stories, even though I've been traveling for 4 years now. But yeah, I really feel like a nomad in my heart. I feel like I don't need. I cannot stay in the Netherlands too long. I just get this urgency to go and explore. But the funny thing is that I've been here for a year now, and I get to explore the Netherlands, and that's pretty cool as well. So I'm not complaining that I cannot go anywhere, but I know that as soon as I get vaccinated, I will go somewhere. I'm not sure where I would go. When people ask me that, I always say that I will go back to Las Palmas because I need that beach. I love that place, but I might end up in Portugal or Slovenia or the United States. I don't know. We'll see, depending on on how the pandemic is going, I guess. So that's kind of the story how I got into traveling. And yeah, I don't have any plans at this moment, but we'll see when we are allowed to travel again, because now in the Netherlands we're not allowed to go on a holiday. We're not allowed to cross borders, even though you can, but well, I don't think I could. It doesn't feel right for me, so I won't. But that's my story, and I thought I should record this so people would know the story and I should get started, because I was telling myself for a couple of days that I should record an episode in English, and it was this huge thing in my head, but it's not that difficult. So I'm glad I got that first one done, and now I can record all the others that I've planned. So stay tuned for more episodes. Ciao. Thank you for getting along on my journey and listening to another episode of Fearless Adventure. Would you like more information on the topic of this episode? Then take a look at the show notes on fearlessadventure.nl. Give your opinion or want to screenshot this episode on Instagram, you can find me and tag me on Instagram at Veerlez. That is Veerlez. Fearless. Can't wait to hear from you and see you next time.